There are some things in life that just go really well together. Peanut butter and jelly, politician and lies. Now those things go together very well, but they don't really stand well on their own. I mean, who the hell just eats straight jelly, right? Then there are some other things in life that you love both of them individually, and when they come together, they're even better. Chocolate and peanut butter, sex and bacon, and of course, throne statues and predator statues. Today, we are looking at this giant 1/3 scale Predator on throne statue from XM Studios. At least I think it's a throne. It could just be like a highly advanced turlet. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. Today we are looking at XM Studios King Predator on Throne Supreme Scale. That's a fancy word. This is about 1/3 scale, meaning it's 3 times smaller than what a real life version of this would be. Now, if you're a Predator fan, you might be looking at this guy and be like, I do not remember which movie he was in. That's because he was not in a movie. This is actually not directly based out of the comics as well, because that's right, Predator is actually bigger in the comics than he is in the cinematic films. This is XM Studios' own interpretation, drawing from the Dark Horse comics and a few other things. And if you're new to the channel, I love throne statues. I have about 30 of them. If you like throne statues, make sure you've not only liked this video, but you've subscribed to the channel and hit that bell notification, because in less than a week, I have a giant Knoll on Throne statue to unbox. It's actually sitting right outside. If you don't know who Knoll is, he is the king of the symbiotes and one of the most powerful Marvel characters out there, just incredibly badass. But back to this guy, he is going in my Predator collection. I recently released a video on TikTok that went viral, so I can't wait to see what he's gonna look like in there. Make sure you check out the social media sites. There's a link in the description below, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I post exclusive content on there. But today we're gonna do an in-depth review of this amazing piece because yes, it is amazing. I am so stoked. I've always wanted a Predator on Throne, and I was lucky enough to grab this custom piece right here years ago. So custom means it's a private unlicensed commission. Whoever owns the right to Predator did not sign off on it, but they did on this one. XM Studios is a licensed company, and this is not their first Predator piece. They came out with this one a while back in the same scale. I wasn't a fan of this at all, but I do like their 1/3 scale Alien piece. Here's a review I did on that statue. So let's dive right into the review because there is a lot to cover on this guy. And as I said, kind of a spoiler, I think XM Studios did an amazing job. We're gonna kick it off with concept of the piece. Now, whenever you have a throne statue, traditionally, most of the time, the fallen enemies are around that main character. Sometimes they're incorporated into the throne. This is no exception to that, but that's why we like throne statues, or at least I do. So his throne is a combination of rock and futuristic stuff. Maybe he's on the planet Predator, who knows where he's at, and you see a lot of fallen enemies, which is typical not only on throne statues, but with Predator as well. His foot is resting on some giant dinosaur or something that assumably he killed. His throne statue, as I said, is a mix of a different number of things. You almost see like skulls and parts of his enemies, some futuristic tubing and hoses, because Predators are pretty advanced creatures. His cape is draped to the side over the side of one armrest. As you move up, this Predator isn't battle damaged at all. He doesn't have any netting on him. He's very royal because this is assumably a King Predator. He's lounging back in his chair. There's a number of switch out options we're gonna look at. It almost looks like he's ready to talk to his subjects, or maybe he killed them all and that's why he's the king, because you see more trophies throughout the entire statue. Like I said, very impressive guy. You almost tell he's some type of royalty. He looks almost what I would say cleaner than most Predators. The huge throne standing behind him. And as I said, he has a few different switch out options, not only with his weapons, but stuff you can do with his left hand and his portrait. We're gonna look at all those during design. And it's just very magnanimous. It really screams, like I said, royalty to me. It screams King Predator. And that's what a throne is all about to me. So I think they did a really, really nice job with the concept of this piece. I'm loving it. I think it's a 5 out of 5. If I wanted a Predator on throne statue, I would want 2 things. One is kind of the royalty aspect this is going, and the other is what the previous piece has where the throne is actually made out of alien parts. Now let's talk about design with this guy, and there is a lot to cover, and I think they did some amazing things, but a few things I'm disappointed at just because they didn't go in a different direction. So we'll talk about those after we look at the unboxing and assembly. Came in 2 boxes that had some decent weight to them. Each had a top cover art box of the portrait. Your traditional XM Studio straps and white foam, of course. The first box only had the throne, and that's all that was in it. Second box consisted of 2 layers in the foam with a ton of pieces, as you see. Not only pieces to the Predator, but pieces to the bases as well. Here's the second level. Actually had the body and the portraits and the top of the throne and a few other things. All right, so let's get the size of this beast. The widest point is probably on the base here. It's a little over 20.5 inches. And the deepest point is probably about 19 inches or so. The tallest point of the throne is 28. And then the staff goes all the way up to almost 32. So I may not be able to I can display the staff. But I'm not sure what I want to display because there's some great switch out options. Take a look. So first, on the right hand, you saw me assemble this. I assembled this incorrectly, but I kind of like that, where he's holding the sword. It's not meant to be like this. It's actually meant for the sword to be on the ground and holding up his hand right here. I like those both. Or with his right arm, you can have that staff. His left arm, holding kind of a fist, and he has his wrist blades out. This is almost, I have the power, reminds me of Darth Vader. You don't know the power of the dark side. Or there is a human skull. Now, I don't like the fact that this human skull doesn't show the wrist blades. To me, the wrist blades are quintessential with Predator, so I think that's a little bit of a miss. Then you have 2 portrait options, as you see here, and an extra bust display. And I think with Predator, an extra bust display is absolutely needed. Recently, I got Prime 1 Studios City Hunter Predator, this right here, and everybody complained that it didn't have an extra display for the portrait. Well, thankfully, someone on Facebook was making custom ones, so here's a picture of that right here. I think it looks great. So on to this guy. One portrait is a completely masked portrait. And again, very different Predator mask. It looks a little bit more futuristic, and then you have a mix of the gold and red, which traditionally it's just that silver or some faded copper. Then the other one is a partial mask. Now, I really like this because it's different. However, I love to see my Predators without masks. I wish they would have had another portrait or even made this removable so you could see some mandibles. In my opinion, that would have made this perfect. Because I think Predator unmasked is kind of a quintessential part of a Predator statue, I think that will take 1 point off the design. Now, they did a lot of other smart things. Now, also in traditional XM fashion, we get the little envelope that should have 2 pieces of paper in it. One is the instructions. Okay, it has 1 piece of paper in it. Apparently, there was no art print with this. So, they just have the instructions. Good to know. Hello. The dreads are not a pliable material. I'm not sure what they use. It almost looks like a mix between something synthetic and resin, so they're not as breakable. Same thing with the quills. There's not very many of them, but the quills are kind of that material too, so they don't break off as easy. Last thing, and this doesn't bother me, it's just something I noticed, he doesn't have a cannon on him. I own about 12 Predator statues and all of them have the cannon. He does not. Not a big deal, but something I noticed. So I think the design's a 4 out of 5 because we had to have an unmasked portrait. In my opinion, that's definitely the way to go, even though I do love both of these portraits. Now, paint and sculpt, Predator's a tough one. People always criticize Predator paint. This one is very different, more so on the sculpt, believe it or not, than the paint. But let's take a look because there's so much going on here, including the throne. All right, so much to cover on this guy. I think let's start with the throne at the top here. As I said, it's kind of a mix of almost, higher technological stuff, but some of that almost looks like silver bones. I like how they incorporated that, and the gold really gives it that royal feel, especially with those red lines running down it. So I think the choice of colors and the execution's pretty well. There is a little bleed over in the paint, but I think that that is intentional. I think this is supposed to be kind of a worn throne. And because there's so many different facets on this, you can see with the camera, I'm even having trouble getting it to focus on one specific thing. So it's very interesting how they did that. And even some of these other parts here, sorry, I wanted to make sure I didn't hit the bus stand. Like over here, this skull right here, is this like a skull they had painted or mounted, taxidermied? Part of whatever this creature is right here. We don't know what's on the other armrest because it's covered up by the cape, which, looking at the cape really quick, so I don't know if this is his exact cape that's on his back because it's a different color. I think it's just kind of like some ceremonial robes maybe that he has thrown there. Very dirtied. It's really the only dirty part of the statue, but I think the way it's displayed and sculpted over it looks really, really good. And let's jump on him really quick here. Before we get to the bottom of the base. I love that cape in the back. So, like I said, very royal-like, prestigious. He has a mixed media chain right there, along with the mixed media skulls on the leather strap that you can pretty much put wherever you want. His armor here, I love that red, and just how that really shows, like I said, gives you that king feeling. Now his skin, let's look at that, because this is often a big challenge with predators. So they have a lot of green in here. More green is appearing on the camera than you can see by the naked eye. But I like what they did. The spots, the bumps look okay. You'll see some of on the design earlier, we were talking about some of the quills right here in the back. You don't see too many on the portrait other than right at the top here, which we'll look at the portraits in the end. So I think they did a nice job, very reptilian. It's not what I expected. It's a little bit different than you typically see on Predator, but I guess I'm also used to seeing the netting. So I quite like it without. But there's all this layering here, like even stuff like this, like these straps that are across his legs that assumably help hold up his no-no square cover, as my youngest son would call it. The armor on the boots look great, this maroon color. And it looks clean but used. I think they did a great job with the nails and the feet down here, if you're into that thing. Same thing with his hands. And again, I apologize, the focus is hard to get on this because there's so many parts to this statue. It's just trying to autofocus on other things. The gauntlets he has, very similar to the armor down on the boots. And here's his weapons. So not only the sword, I have it just laying there, but it's a mix of different things, which is what I like with the Predators. This is made out of plastic, so I think that's a little bit of a miss. Also, the blades in the arm I don't have displayed are plastic. That's an unfortunate miss. They should have went metal on the blades at least. For this, I understand for weight purposes. It's a resin material. So I think they did a really nice job with the Predator. The armor on him, the skin looks good. Let's check out the bottom of the base here. So there's some stone because typically, as advanced as predators are, they kind of live out in the wild. You get this feeling that, on top of a mountain, something like that is where this throne would be. I love the beast that he's slaughtered down here. Looks, the bones on it, they actually go all across the base here. Really cool. I think there's some great coloring in there. Make it look like real bones. The mud on the bottom looks okay, but there's not much of it. You don't see very much, even these like bones sticking out, these black protrusions right here. It looks okay, you don't see much of it, and if you're looking at the statue, that's hardly the thing that you focus on. So let's look at the portraits. This is definitely my favorite portrait. They did a really nice job. The eyes, hard to see, but they're orange. And I love that mask. I think the top here looks really good, very shiny, so it almost has a moist effect you don't see anywhere else. A little plasticky when you look at the top back part right here, but I can get over that. The dreads are great. Very sleek. And I like the green ornaments they put in there. And then it colors down to red. So very, very different for a Predator statue. And that red really just contrasts really well with a lot of other pieces of the statue, whether it's the mask or the stand or his armor. And that's kind of the color you have on the bust display over here. There's the other portrait. And you really can't see the eyes in that. You can if you shine a light in there. The lighting in my office isn't very good, so I apologize for that. But yeah, this is pretty phenomenal. I think they did a really good job with the paint and sculpt on top of such an awesome concept. Well done. Paint, I'm really impressed. I think they did a really nice job. I liked a lot of the things they did with that skin. So you combine that with just the different intricacies inside the throne. I think it's a 4 out of 5 on the paint. It's not a perfect paint, but it's pretty damn good with a few exceptions. Sculpt, this guy is badass. He really, really is. Like I said, the skin is not what I expected, but I like it. And I love everything about what's going on with the throne. Something we didn't really talk about in design is you miss all of this, unfortunately, which more and more statues have a ton of stuff going on the back. And unless you display them as a centerpiece, which I don't, you miss all that, unfortunately. But that's not really a bad thing against the sculpt or anything. So I think the sculpt's also a solid 4 out of 5. I think they're close to a 5 out of 5, but not quite there. All right, let's dive into value here. Now, this guy, they made 300 of these. That's the ES or edition size. He retailed right around 2,000 Singapore dollars, which is about 1,500 US dollars. Then you got to pay about $500 shipping, depending on your shipping rates. My go-to for XM Studios pieces is Cosmic Chase Collectibles. That's where I got this. Not only is it fantastic customer service, super quick shipping. If there's ever an issue, they take care of me. Highly recommend them. I really appreciate them. If you want to check them out, there's a non-affiliate link in the description below, because they not only sell XM Studios, but Prime One Studios, Queen Studios, almost every high-end collectible statue. Definitely check them out. But $2,000, they made 300 of these. You know, Predator is a popular character. The majority of high-end Predator statues, for the most part, seem to go for more than the original retail. I think this one will too, because it's extremely badass. Now, I don't know if this is sold out everywhere, but it probably will be soon. And I'm guessing this will go for more than retail in the aftermarket. So I think this will be a 4 out of 5 when it comes to value, despite the fact they didn't have an art print. If they had an awesome unmasked portrait, I honestly think that would definitely be a 4 out of 5, if not a 5 out of 5 on the value. Does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? That's kind of my overall ranking. How much do I love this? Does it look badass? Does it look awesome? You're damn straight it does. This is a 5 out of 5 statue. I love this piece. Not disappointed at all. He actually exceeded my expectations, believe it or not. I remember when they teased this, and I was like, ooh, I'm really interested, only if it's 1/4 scale. But then they said it's going to be bigger, it's going to be 1/3 scale, and I'm like, yeah, I'm out. Then I saw more pictures. It's like, yeah, I got to get this guy. So absolutely love him. Big thank you to Cosmic Chase Collectibles. Now, what do you guys think of this guy? Throw that down in the comments below, because that could enter you into a contest. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Please drop me a like on the way out. It really, really helps. Check out some of these other videos in the meantime. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe if you like stuff like this, because I have tons more coming. Really appreciate it. Take care.